I am continuing in my reading. What I'm doing in this series is to read through the entire standard works of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. This consists of the Bible, the Book of Mormon, the Doctrine and Covenants, and the Pearl of Great Price. I am continuing reading in a chronological order, according to event, not according to publication or volume, so I'm skipping around a bit as I move along. I am continuing in my reading. This is the Doctrine and Covenants again. In my last reading, we read section 113, in which Joseph Smith explains the meaning of a couple of passages in Isaiah. This was shortly after he had arrived in Far West, as he fled from the mob that were chasing him down in Kirtland. Now, after this, there are two things we want to mention here before we get to our next reading, and that is, first, in Kirtland we have a couple of conferences, and then Oliver Cowdery, David Whitmer, and Lyman Johnson are all brought on charges, and they are excommunicated. Now, the charges against Oliver Cowdery is that he has turned to filthy lucre, and that he has gone practicing law and abandoned the ministry. And in his practice of law, he has encouraged the saints to sue each other on minor, or what would be called spurious charges. And in addition to this, he has accused Joseph Smith of adultery. Now, this would be in connection with the affair of Fanny Alger. And most likely, this was the first instance of plural marriage in the church. I'm not going to get into the details of it, but Oliver Cowdery was making the accusation, and he was trying to convince the saints to go into lawsuits against each other. He is excommunicated. David Whitmer is brought up on charges of violations of the word of wisdom, but also being in league with the dissenters back in Kirtland and writing false accusations against Joseph Smith to the saints in Kirtland. And for this, he is excommunicated. Lyman Johnson is also excommunicated, but in the history written by Joseph Smith, he does not state why. Oliver Cowdery and David Whitmer were, of course, two of the three witnesses. David Whitmer was the president of the stake in Zion. Oliver Cowdery was the second elder of the church. Lyman Johnson, I believe, was one of the apostles. All of them are excommunicated. The other thing to mention is back in England, of course, Heber C. Kimball and Orson Hyde led the missionary effort for the first 8 months or so, but now they are going to be returning to America, and they are organizing an actual mission presidency in England. They call Joseph Fielding as the mission president, and with Willard Richards and a William Clayton as his counselors. Now, Joseph Fielding and Willard Richards were elders who had come out on the mission. William Clayton was a recent convert in England. Orson Hyde and Heber C. Kimball go back to Liverpool in company with Joseph Fielding and Willard Richards. And while they are awaiting the ship to take them back to America, they write a prophecy about some dissensions that will shortly happen among the church in England. They seal it and give it to these men in the possession of the presidency of the mission, with the instructions not to open it until it is fulfilled. And we see this gift of prophecy among the apostles. Now, I do find it also very interesting that they get on the ship Garrick, which is the same ship that they were on when they came to America. They sailed on the Garrick to the England, and now they're sailing on the Garrick to go back to America. Just a little historical note there. One last thing is that in the English mission field, we have the first publication of an anti-Mormon pamphlet. And this was done by I can't remember his name, Lively or something like that. Or anyways, he visited America, stated that he had never heard about the saints, came back to England, and even in England said he never heard anything about the saints while he was there. And then after these elders are preaching, he publishes this pamphlet, which consists of various lies and false stories that had been printed in newspapers in America, and he claims that they were stashed in a bottom of a suitcase, and he didn't know they were there until recently. And so he's publishing them for the benefit of the people, but he does tell them he has gone through great expense to get this published, and so he needs them to buy his pamphlet so that they can be protected from the evil Mormons. And when he says that they need to buy it, the whole congregation just ignores him, and the whole scheme fails. So that's the first anti-Mormon tract in England. I just thought that was fun. But now I've talked about the history long enough. Let us turn to section 114. The heading states this: Revelation given through Joseph Smith the prophet at Far West, Missouri, April 17th, 1838. Recorded History of the Church, Volume 3, page 23. There's really not much else to say about it. I've covered most of the history before this, and it doesn't tell us much, but we have to remember that this is at a time when many members have fallen away. They have been excommunicated and apostatized. We had just recently the excommunication, as I said, of Oliver Cowdery, David Whitmer, and Lyman Johnson, and several others back in Kirtland, and that is what is going to be discussed here. That is the main concern of the church at this time. So, it's a nice short section. Let us read it. Verily, thus saith the Lord, it is wisdom in my servant David W. Patten that he settle up all his business as soon as he possibly can, and make a disposition of his merchandise, that he may perform a mission unto me next spring in company with others, even 12, including himself, to testify of my name and bear glad tidings unto all the world. For verily thus saith the Lord, that inasmuch as there are those among you who deny my name, others shall be planted in their stead, and receive their bishopric. Amen. This is interesting here in that we're talking about the 12 apostles, and yet they call it their bishopric. And in the footnotes, it references back to Acts chapter 1, when they appoint Matthias to replace Judas in the 12. So it's just interesting that the term bishopric, we today never refer to the apostles as having a bishopric. And I think that's just a reference to authority. They have an authority. See, a bishop means, or I believe the term means, is a pastor, meaning a shepherd. And so you have a flock. The 12 apostles would, in this sense, have a bishopric in that their flock is the world. I find that interesting. But what's happening, David Patten is told to get everything ready so that next spring, about 1 year from now, that would be in 1839, he can serve a mission with the rest of the 12. Now, this mission of the 12 will happen, but David Patten himself will be killed in the Mormon-Missouri War later in the year 1838, and so he will never serve this mission. Some critics of the church will claim this as a false prophecy. I just point out that it's not a prophecy, it is a commandment. David Patten is being commanded to get ready for this mission. He has never promised that he will serve he's not said you are going to serve this mission. He has said get ready for this mission because I'm going to call my 12 apostles again. We're going to replace those who have fallen away so that we have 12 apostles once again, and next year they are going to serve another mission for me. And you need to get ready so that when that happens, you can be one of them. But it's a nice short section, and quite honestly, I think in this video it was probably only about maybe a quarter of the video, so I'm going to leave it here, and we turn to section 115 next. I will see you there.